there. And the rest he can talk one-on-one with you guys. And he can explain. There's a lot that we don't know that's going on in there. Trust me. I thought I knew. No. So Shane, come on over, sir. Can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and then we'll get at some questions?
Yeah, so thanks George for working with us on this and reaching out. For everybody out here today that hates the blessed carbon tax, we're all on the same page there. I'm just a farm kid, so I grew up out by Chip Lake, Alberta. Anybody know where that's at? By Lehman, Wildwood? Okay, now we're getting close. So the family farm was just west of Chip Lake. Grew up out there, mixed farming, so we did cattle, we did logging as well, had small sawmills. So you grow up learning what it was like under the first Trudeau. That was my memory as growing up as a kid of what it was like. Ended up going to college, became a civil engineering technologist and worked in heavy industrial construction. So big plant sites, SAGD facilities, diamond mines, and then got into pipeline fiber optics. And in pipelining, I ended up starting up my own little consulting company. And then I worked for companies like Enbridge and TransCanada right across North America on the system itself. And when I got involved in politics is when we had Trudeau Part 2, and then we had the NDP take over Alberta. And that's when I started to pay attention to politics and how it worked. I ended up answering an email one day. It was for a director position as a constituency association. And then I ended up being asked by folks to run in my area because we had an NDP minister of forestry and agriculture in our area. And I thought, I've never done this before. We had a bunch of good folks come together that, similar to you folks here today, were getting tired of what was taking place. And I thought if all had happened out of it, if I got to get on stage for 30 minutes and rip a strip off some guy that was messing up my province, then it was worthwhile. One of the first things that you do in politics is you have to put your face out there. And everybody knows, and Grandma told me a long time, you never talk about religion, you never talk about politics, you don't go around bragging, and you sure as the heck don't ask for money. When you get into politics, you're literally going door to door, talking to people, and you're getting their confidence, their support to help fund your campaign. So my team convinced me to put my blessed face on the side of my pickup. And I was awkward as all get out with that, having the pickup there and doing that. But one of the earliest memories that I had from that campaign was talking about when the carbon tax first came into effect and how it was impacting everybody, not just the big economy. It was impacting everybody, and quite frankly, folks that work for a living the most. 6:30 in the morning, on our way to the UFA, guy comes up, he's got a log truck there, and I'm filling up my pickup, and he goes, "Are you Shane?" And I go, "Yeah," next to this blessed pickup with my face on it. And he goes, "Can you help us with that carbon tax?" I said, "Yeah, that's the first thing we're going to do. If we get elected, we're gonna get it out of the province." And he goes, I says, "My dad and I used to have 4 trucks. We're down to 2. At this point, we can only operate them ourselves. Our operating costs are going up." And he says, I just want someone to get the government to get their foot off my throat and stop picking my pocket. I just want to earn." And that's the message I carry forward in the House of Under Time. We managed to get the carbon tax out. The feds repealed it, and we ended up where we're at today. And now we've got some good weather rolling in. So with that, open all your questions. I'm just an Alberta farm boy that stepped out of my comfort zone, parked my business, husband of 22 years, 4 kids, and just open to be here to ask me questions and see what we can do. I can't boil the ocean, and I can only play in my area where I'm at, and I'm sworn to cabinet confidence, so sometimes I'll say, "No, I can't tell you that." It's because literally I swore an oath, and quite frankly, my word is still worth something, so hopefully everybody understands that. With that, George, it's open to you.
Right on. Well, let's get at some questions here and get as far as we can in this. And if we have to, we move it to the tent so you can be more personable and ask your questions in there, guys, weather permitting out here. So there seems to be a lot of confusion over why Saskatchewan refused to pay the carbon tax and Alberta didn't. Can you explain this, please? We're wondering why that's happening.
Yeah, great question. So basically, Saskatchewan still has their crown corporations in effect. They can produce the power. So they've got literally a government organization through the provincial province. We don't have that. We've got private corporations. So when Stephen Guilbeault, I call him the green gremlin, by the way, I can't stand that little fella. When he tried to take a run at us on the clean energy standards, we don't have the same shield in effect. So he literally was trying to make it that anyone who proves power, so if you look at the power companies, the CEOs, etc., potentially they could be thrown in jail. We don't have the same mechanism to push back, but we're looking at the small modular file, we're looking at the nuclear file, we're looking at reformation in the Energy Acts, so there might be something in there that we can use down the road. But that's the main difference. We don't have the same system as Saskatchewan does. That's where we're at right now.
What efforts are the Alberta government making to challenge the federal carbon tax? They argued that everyone should be exempt from the carbon tax on heating fuel when Trudeau gave Eastern Canada a break. What are you guys doing to move this forward?
Yeah, so specifically, we lost our day in court already. So we've taken it to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court overruled us. But now it's a war of little battles at a time. So every time that they push something back out, we're standing up for Alberta, we're putting in some barriers, we're filling loopholes, we're doing those type of things. And then again, coming back to that power file, that's where we've got some opportunity on the energy generation side, the transmission side, that way. Yeah, the weather is moving in. This is perfect timing, I guess, for me to skip questions. But
all right, I got a question. Ultimately, carbon tax increases the price of everything by increasing shipping costs. What is the Alberta government doing to make it affordable for Albertans to live?
yeah, so the biggest thing we can do is work on the affordability file. We've reduced taxes in our jurisdictions. We're literally getting the economy rocking and rolling. We're trying to get that energy file under control when it comes down to the electricity. Those are some of the things that we put into effect. And then the supports and services. So anything we can do to pay down debt, anything that we can do to make sure we've got services there and make sure we've got tax revenue coming in, keeping all of that down low. And there's a reason why 200,000 Canadians across the country moved to Alberta. It's because we're doing those things. And, I wish I could just change things, but the biggest way to change the carbon tax down east is to get the Liberals out.
Many people also do not understand why the Alberta government also seemed to add to the gas tax April 1st. Could you straighten that out for us as well?
Yeah, for sure. So this one gets hijacked in the media all the time. So we have a road tax that was sitting there. What we did is we managed to put in an affordability package. There was a ton of things that we could do with a little bit of legislation. What we did was we tied the fuel tax to the price of oil. So as soon as the barrel hits a certain value, the tax comes off, the road tax, because again, we're gaining revenues on that upstream side. As soon as it hits a threshold of $70 and lower, then that tax comes back on. And again, it's not a carbon tax, it's literally a road tax. It's what we need to be able to fix the potholes. It's what we need for that road maintenance. And I wish we could honestly take it away, but we're just not financially in a province in a position to do all that stuff, as we still need to pay for the services we have.
Substantial investment is leaving Canada and Alberta for greener pastures, taking good paying jobs with them. How is Alberta government going to turn that around?
Well, it's a great question, and I would argue we have. Like when you look at what's happened in Canada, all the paying jobs, the ones that we have here, Alberta's the only one that has the job increases in the private sector. All the other provinces is in government. And if you keep paying the government, it's like having a tick on the back of the moose. It just keeps sucking more and more energy out of it until the moose dies. We're not doing that here. So we've got some major investments because we lowered our corporate taxes. We lowered them down to the personal tax as much as we can at this point. People are actually coming here. You don't have Dow coming in and throwing $5 billion around because they don't think it's a good place to invest. We've got a ton of interest. The other one too that we found is we take our show on the road. You do not let the feds speak for Alberta. So when you see Premier on the road, and you see me on the road, and a bunch of our ministers on the road, it's literally because we're talking to these other jurisdictions. The president of Poland came to see Premier Smith. He didn't come here to see Trudeau. That was only a couple weeks ago. I went over to Germany, it was the same thing. They came over here within a couple of weeks. They wanted to see us, like within a month, they were setting it up to come and talk to us directly about our energy file, how to do that. We've got senators from the States now coming up, and if anyone's seen the States, like who's been down to the US? Show of hands. All right, so every friggin' corner has a US flag and they're patriotic as all get out. when I've got U.S. senators coming up here, we invite them up to our area, we show them around, and we're ourselves, we dispel a bunch of these risks, or these myths that are out there. Literally, I had state senators standing up on the stage. We had autographed a bunch of Alberta flags for them as government and gave them to them. After 2 days, without any prompting or anything else, these guys were on stage. We were having a question and answer like this, and I asked them, what did they learn? How do you feel about Alberta? The senator stood up himself and started waving the Alberta flag. This is what we're doing out there. So that's what we're trying to do on that side.
Are you committed to a utilities pipeline corridor from Alberta to Churchill, Manitoba, Hudson Bay to increase exports to the east from prairie provinces, and what actions have you taken so far?
You're a sweetheart. You're just giving me a softball question. This is awesome. Okay. So I'm a pipeliner, right? So we do linear projects. What I pitched Premier Kenney on was a thing called economic corridors. So what I wanted to do is define unfettered right away. Give me an anchor tenant, whether it's a railroad or give me a pipeline or a power line, but then you offset enough distance on the side of it to allow for the next 50 to 60 years of growth. So we literally got this corridor task force. I got to lead that, pull that out. When Premier Smith came in, before she was Premier, even before the candidates were talking to me about this plan. The plan included Churchill, it included Anchorage, it includes Rupert, and quite frankly, it includes tying in Texas to Alberta to get to Alaska. So what I'm working on in that file, before we even went to the election, we had Alberta and Saskatchewan and Manitoba sign an economic corridors memorandum of understanding to align all of those routes that we have in our control to talk about economic corridors. Because when I go talk about pipelines, immediately people's ears turn off. But if I talk about an economic corridor of tying in trade jurisdictions and regions, all of a sudden the conversation changes. It's not just about pipe, it's about all of the infrastructure. And then also harmonizing the transportation corridors. So if I'm doing loads and weights and measures for my loads, I'm looking at my axle weights, why doesn't all that stuff line up? If I've got Saskatchewan building highways to the middle of nowhere, well, why doesn't Alberta tie into the back end? So we're looking at an Arctic corridor that gets us into that Alaska area. Premier Smith will be up there on the 20th talking with Governor Dunleavy. Governor Dunleavy asked for a joint task force or a joint committee to be stood up that was in the times of Ralph Klein. It's their lieutenant governor and myself that are appointed to that to talk about projects of common interest. Moreover, we're part of the Council of State Governments. I'm the lead for Alberta's representatives on that, and also for the Pacific Northwest Economic Region. So we're literally trying to tie all these states in. And I want you to guys get used to a phrase. We're going to try to pitch the heck out of this. Fortress North America. North America should be 100% self-sufficient. Forget about all these little impediments that we have with these borders and trade deals and issues all between the borders, between the provinces and the states. Forget about the international line. Fortress North America. We need to tie in our energy. We need to have food security. We definitely need to have mineral critical elements of food security. The way we get there to do all of that, to quickly get linear projects and infrastructure built again, is the economic corridor model. So that thing is being picked up like you wouldn't believe. We're going to push the heck out of it, and folks absolutely love it. And I keep telling folks too, I want one dusty boot in Alberta, the other one's touching salt water. So this show isn't just for the North American context within the province, it's literally international as well. How do I get stuff over to Europe? India wants a bunch of our stuff. Asia wants our stuff. This is what we're into right now.
Wow, that sounds really good. Hopefully it all works out. I have one question still. So Danielle Smith does not have the power to axe the carbon tax, by the sounds of it. What is she going to axe? Can she axe the fuel tax or something and save lives? Can we put money? What are we going to axe if we can't get rid of the carbon tax to save lives?
Yeah, and it's not a simple answer, and I'm not going to be a politician on this. You can't do one thing to fix the problem, but you have to do a bunch of little things to fix those things to bring the cost and the affordability. So on the economic side, you got to make sure that it's affordable for folks. So the energy thing, that we control that. So the power of electricity, the cost of electricity, we can do that. And that's what Minister Neudorf has been doing. He's brought about 4 different bills. And I kind of put it to folks, the energy file is like old friggin' Chevy Chase pulling out his Christmas tree lights and putting them up every year. It's just a mess. It's a big ball, and it's just whacked. So we're actually unraveling all of that and putting things in place, and that'll start bringing those costs back down to about 12 cents to 9 cents a kilowatt hour. That's going to be one of them. The other one is to make sure that our tax jurisdiction is as low as possible, so folks aren't paying a ton of Alberta tax. We can't control the feds, but we can control that side. The other one is to get more people here. More people means more tax revenue, making sure that people have jobs, good paying jobs, and bring the cost of housing back down. So we're working on that file. We've actually got the largest housing starts we've had in a long time. We're looking at innovative ways for affordable housing to do that. Non-conventional ways out there, but there's a lot of people putting their heads to it on that side. So again, I'd love to tell you I can remove one thing and it all goes away. It's a pound and ground on the bottom. It's looking at every efficiency we can have. It's reducing red tape. It's making sure businesses here. It's making sure people don't have compounding taxes and that their dollars go quicker. On the government side, has anyone heard of this thing called AHS? Okay, so the two largest costs for us in the province, you as taxpayers, are your education and your healthcare. Your healthcare right now, anyone have an idea how much we spend on that? Too much. $26 billion a year. To put it in context, the Minister of Transportation and Economic Corridors has a $3.5 billion budget for all the roads, everything we have, all the bridges, all the maintenance in the province. Healthcare gets $26 billion. Our national defense program for all the soldiers that serve and continue to serve and protect us, they get about $23 billion a year. So it's not that we're not throwing the cash at it. So if I can look at efficiencies in our healthcare system to make sure we put the patient first, get all of that stuff and make sure it's efficient, pull out some of that bureaucracy and free up that deadwood, all of a sudden a little bit of effort there pays tons of dividends. So that's what we're doing behind the scenes. It's not sexy, it's not nothing I can tell you for a silver bullet. But if I can look for the low-hanging fruit on the biggest bucket of cash that we have out there, it's orders of magnitude how much we can bring things back in line. That's what we're up to. Sure. I guess I'm not, in my ears it's really loud, but I don't have it close enough. We'll do this.
Thank you. I just kind of a twofold question. I got some documents sent to you by the MLA that was yeah, so some of that information is actually directly related to the carbon tax, but not directly. I would like to sit down and actually discuss with you, myself, as to how this can be done, because I think that there are some things that could be done to help block the federal encroachment, because I believe that the carbon tax is a complete federal encroachment that we shouldn't be doing. What use of the notwithstanding clause be available to use against the carbon tax here in Alberta while they go ahead and look at all the other options to stop the federal government from interfering in the province of Alberta?
Yeah, and so first of all, when I walk in every room, I know I'm going in there, I'm not the smartest guy. I was taught that, right off from growing up as a little guy. And the reason for that is because I don't know what I don't know. So with all of us out here, they're force multipliers. If you're digging in dark corners and you're finding stuff that we might be able to use, I'm all ears. Sometimes it takes us a while to go through it, because obviously we get a lot of stuff thrown our direction, right? There's only so much we can digest, just like drinking water from a fire hose sometimes. So I would have to go back to legal counsel to see on that side. I'm not a lawyer by background, so I think, and probably in all probability, if we could have used the notwithstanding clause, we already would have pulled that bad boy off the shelf. But what we did do was put in the Sovereignty Act within the United Canada. We've actually had to pull that off the shelf already. I didn't think we'd have to use it, but we did. And that's almost like doing a notwithstanding clause without pulling the notwithstanding order in place. And basically it goes back to the constitutional amendments and agreements that we have, that when the feds overstep their boundaries, and as we learned from the carbon tax fiasco, if we wait for them to take us to court, we're already at a disadvantage. But if we do something and it goes through the House, it's brought up, it's debated, and we say, we ain't doing it. We're pulling that off the shelf, we're putting it in place. They have to sue us, not us suing them. So it puts them up back on their heels. And we had some good things that took place, like with Bill C-69, that went in our favor. That was the No More Pipelines Act. So that one we won in court. The whole drinking straw things, we won that in court. So these are the things we're gonna have to keep doing. So I'd love to sit down with you later, man, and go through what you've got. And if there's something that we have and anybody has any of that stuff, yeah, feed it into us and we'll take a look at it, because I don't know what I don't know.
Yeah, well, Dale's got a lot of information for you. I hope you're ready for that. But thank you for being open and honest to what's going on to our questions. We're going to keep this nice, short, and sweet up on the stage, you guys, because I want all of you to have a chance to talk to this man. He's open to anything. There's people that have questions out there. He's going to be lingering around here for a while, and we'll set him up so you guys can have your conversations and ask your personal questions. Okay? He might not be able to answer some of them if you got a video camera in his face. Just telling you. Okay? So thank you for showing up and answering these questions. And you're going to have a lot more once you're out there. Thank you for doing that. Be more personable with the people, face to face. You're a good man. Thank you.
Yeah, and what I do in my area, it's called What Matters to You. So I've got a little weekly column. Don't ever disregard your little local papers. That's the only way I can get my voice out to you. Like literally my stuff is as censored as yours is. You know, when I'm talking to George and telling him about some of the things, he's never heard of it. But we've been in the House and trying to get it in the papers, and it's just not getting out. So it's also me telling you the things that we're working on that resonates with you. So it's what matters to you, but it's reciprocated. You got to tell me what's in your area, what's going on. I can't boil the ocean, but if you give me 4 or 5 things I can work on, you got my word. We're going to start ratcheting it down and taking care of what we can. So really appreciate it. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you for coming, sir. Rockaroni, you want to say anything today? I say enough, you talk enough. Okay, guys, well, please, like I said, talk to Shane. Ask him anything. I know you guys out there have some questions. We wanted to keep this professional up on the stage so that we could push forward with the UCP party, just listening to us and talking to us. We've never had somebody come out here in 4 years that we've been doing this, right? So please, ask them questions. Thank you, everyone.